Hey, what's up guys, my name is Charlie. Today we're going to be doing some more requested reaction videos, and this video is requested by Wolverine12, and it's going to be LGR, Elder Scrolls Morrowind PC game review. Oh boy, Elder Scrolls Morrowind, I used to play the shit out of this game. I remember playing this game back in 2004, all the way to 2010. I mean, that's that's pretty sad. But yeah, I've played this game a lot and a long time over the years. It's perhaps one of my favorite Morrowind games, well, Elder Scrolls games, because there's so many of them now. Yeah, I absolutely loved the game. I played it for years. I remember my father creating his own dungeons on the game for me and modding the like gold coins and stuff like that to enhance the gaming experience for me. And he used to install it on these discs that I used to. It was just to enhance the gaming experience because it was just something I did. But yeah, let's check out the video, shall we? Let's go. I love the command
As
prompt
of
text
this
there.
video's posting, The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind is 15 years old. Released on May
Damn.
1st,
Fucking
2002,
Bethesda.
Morrowind is still considered by many to be the favorite of the series,
Oh yeah, it's
myself
one of the best
included.
for me.
Although for me, I didn't actually play the game until a couple years after it launched, and it was
Same.
with this
I
Game of
played
the
it
Year edition that I first
2004.
experienced the land of dark elves and silt striders. And it's a nice enough box, I suppose, but I much prefer the massive collector's edition, clad in matte black and embossed glossy artwork. Definitely a centerpiece of any PC game collection, but good luck finding a complete copy of this for less than 200
Damn.
bucks. Inside this edition, you
That's
not
what
only
I
get
had.
the
I had
game
the
and construction
disc.
set discs,
I
along
just
with
had
the
the
standard
disc.
manual and fold-out map poster, but there's also the phenomenal soundtrack by Jeremy Soule on
I didn't have a
CD.
collector's
In
edition or
addition, you
anything. I
get the
just had a disc for
48-page Art of
Morrowind.
Morrowind book, which is a real treat if you want to see more concept art than the in-game loading screens provide. And finally, there's the 2.5-inch pewter Ordinator figurine. But yeah,
Nice.
the typical small box North American release is pretty tame in comparison, but at least it comes with a map and full color manual, both of which I admired and analyzed endlessly back when I first played this. However, if you were in one of the European territories where Ubisoft distributed the game, you might have had this fantastic bundle. It has an inner package that slides out and unfolds, revealing more artwork.
Yeah, I
as
think
well
I
as
had
the
that.
manual,
That's
map,
the
and
one I
CDs
had.
tucked inside in a way that's much more visually appealing than the ugly
But
cardboard
I
tray we
think
got over here. And of course, there were the 2 official expansion packs,
I didn't have
Tribunal
those.
and Blood Moon, which I have thanks to a generous donation. Thank you very much for
Nice.
that. This content was included in the Game of the Year edition, but they're sweet little boxes on their own,
nice
and they came
collectibles.
packaged with their own separate maps as well. A welcome thing indeed for the cartographically inclined. And finally, there's the Xbox
Oh
version,
yeah, I had
the
that as
only other
well.
platform that
The
Morrowind
Xbox
appeared on
original. I
outside
had it
of
for PC and Xbox.
Despite its drawbacks due to hardware limitations, it was received rather well and ended up being
I thought
the
it was
15th
good.
highest-selling game
The
on the
Xbox
system.
original Morrowind
And
game was
finally,
pretty good.
there's the Morrowind Prophecies. This one
Never
being
had
the
that.
Game of the Year edition, which is a gigantic 416-page strategy guide by the venerable Peter Olafsson. Not a requirement in the days of online walkthroughs, but holy crap, the detail this thing goes into is darned impressive. Morrowind deserved it too. This was a game with nearly a decade-long legacy in 2002, with years of hype building up to it after Arena, Daggerfall, Battlespire, and Redguard established the brand up to that point. Crazy to think that it almost happened completely differently too, with Bethesda teasing it as far back as 1997, with this note inside the
1997,
box
damn.
for Battlespire. Yeah, a Morrowind in 1998 would have been quite a different beast indeed, but instead they scrapped the X engine used since Daggerfall and went with Gamebryo predecessor Net Immerse, also used in games like Freedom Force and Prince of Persia 3D.
Oh boy.
Alright, are you still with me?
Oh, this
Good,
takes me
because you're
back.
about to have an eargasm, courtesy of Jeremy Soule.
Yes. This music was fucking epic. Honestly, this is the most epic music you could play. It just takes you back. Jesus. Honestly, I'm in tears right now. I could be in tears just listening to that music.
Hearing just the few opening notes of the Morrowind theme, or heck, any of the soundtrack to this game, fills me with all manner of joy and wonder and adventure and just,
just
this game
relaxing.
is so awesome, and we haven't even gotten past the main menu
Yeah,
yet. Once you do get past this menu and start a new game,
start on
you're
the boat, I
presented
believe,
with quotes and a creepy yet soothing voice whispering sweet ambiguities in your ear.
Fear not, for I am watchful. You have been chosen.
Wake up.
Wake up. And you start on the boat.
Why are you shaking? Are you okay? Wake up.
There we go. God.
You were dreaming. What's your name?
Yeah, this is actually quite a departure from the preceding Elder Scrolls games in terms of introductions. No hair metal, no cheesy FMV, no complicated stats screens. Instead, in what would become
plain
a Bethesda
simplified
game tradition, Morrowind starts you off as a blank slate to determine your identity through the narrative, while also acting as a quick tutorial. The setup is that you're an anonymous prisoner who's just landed on the Isle of Vardenfell within the Tamriel territory of Morrowind.
Yeah, you go to
You're
the
about
prison
to be
guards.
released, but first you have to fill out the required paperwork, which sets
I
you
always
up
liked
to
the
perform
Dark
all the
Elf.
classic
I don't know why,
CRPG
it just
character
looked
creation
badass.
stuff. Choose your sex, your appearance, and your race, some of which will have long-standing
I used to be an
consequences
archer.
throughout the
My
game
class
due to
was
skill
like an
bonuses,
archer.
special abilities, and the people of
Distance.
Morrowind's individual biases. You'll also choose a class or create your own. Always a lovely opportunity to completely screw up your game before it even starts if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
After this, you're given a set of final obligations to fulfill as an ex-con, which involves delivering a package to a man in the town of Balmora. And yeah, that is all you have to go on. You are on your own.
Yep.
And wow, it does not seem like a decade and a half has passed. Morrowind may not have the grandest opening act,
It's not
or
the greatest
prettiest opening
graphics,
scenery,
but it's
there's
still
still
an
something
in-depth
special about
game, so to
stepping through that
speak.
door for the first time and walking out into the village of Seda Neen.
Yeah.
It's just you, some basic inventory, and a journal against the entire rest of the world. You have a map, but other than a few vague markings and territorial outlines, it's empty.
Yeah, pretty
Furthermore,
much.
there are no quest markers or arrows pointing you in a certain direction. It's completely up to you as to what to do next and how to get there. Heck, you don't even have to go anywhere, since every single village, fortress, town, and city is packed full of stuff to do and NPCs to talk to.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed when a CRPG
Yeah,
throws
it's
you in
really
the deep end from the
overwhelming.
beginning like this, but in this case, I wouldn't have it any other way. The volcanic, mushroomy world of Morrowind is downright enthralling to explore.
Show the
from
guy that
start,
jumps in the air and
the
comes
sense of
flying down
freedom
on the
and
floor with the
self-motivated
book. I love
advancement
that.
is a continual pleasure, even after all these years. Well, for the most part. I like to think I'm not completely blinded by nostalgia when it comes to Morrowind, even if it remains one of my favorite games.
It could be enhanced
But
with
there
mods.
are tiresome quirks and major aggravations all throughout its 60-plus hour main storyline,
Sure.
with plenty more if you continue onto the countless hours of side quests and expansion pack territories. And I'm not just talking about bugs and glitches, of which there actually are quite a few still, but
Oh, yeah.
a lot of it
It's
really is
Bethesda.
just
What
how
did
the
you
game
expect?
is designed.
It's fucking
Some of
Bethesda.
these issues I don't find as bad as their reputation suggests, namely the combat. As with prior games in the series, the combat in Morrowind is based on percentages and stats. So just because you see a visual representation of you swinging a sword into some dude's face, it doesn't mean
mean
you'll
it's gonna
actually
hit.
hit them
Yeah.
unless the invisible dice rolls in your favor.
I
It
know.
also evolves the mouse cursor swiping of Arena and Daggerfall and meshes it with typical first-person game controls. So when combining your attack with movements and held down keys, you'll get different animations and attacks. The options menu actually lets you override this and always use the best attack, which I typically do because I'm lazy, and also because I don't find it any more rewarding or beneficial not to use it. Naturally, players have debated the merits of this for years, but either way, you're stuck with the
Doesn't
same
really matter.
animations, playing over the same dice rolls that lead to the link between the player and the combat feeling loose at best. I find that this is mostly a problem in the early hours of the game
That's what
where
I
you're
used to
still
do.
a
I used to kill this
97-pound
guy over
weakling,
and over.
since once you level up past a certain point and boost those sweet combat
just
skills,
try to kill him
the
'cause he
fighting
kept kicking
becomes
my
a whole
ass.
lot more enjoyable. Not exactly what I'd call excellent or anything, but a bit more satisfying at least. And since the vast majority of Morrowind's gameplay takes place after you've gotten good, I genuinely don't find the combat to be this ultimate deal breaker. Unless we're talking about freaking cliff racers, because screw those guys. They gang up on
Oh,
you,
yeah,
follow you
those
around
were a
forever, and are
bitch.
harder to hit than seemingly anything else, even with all the high-level combat skills you can find. And speaking of skills, in Morrowind your skills are increased by using them, rather than, say, picking from a list of upgrades when you level up. Instead, while leveling, you increase your primary attributes, and these in turn determine the maximum level of their associated skills. But the skills themselves are upgraded by simply playing the game. A common exploit of
I
this
sort
system
of
is to
like
run
that.
and jump absolutely everywhere,
Yeah, I
which will
know,
increase your
but I
athletics
like
and
it.
acrobatics
I
skills
just
pretty
loved bunny
quickly.
hopping throughout
And
the
with
whole
as
entire
slow of a
game.
runner and weak of a jumper you are at the start, you absolutely will want to take advantage of this just to make getting around the game that much less of a slog. There are also trainer NPCs dotted throughout the world, which is fine and dandy, but not only is it an annoying string of menu options to go through each time, but the only thing standing in your way of epic skills is money. Talk about
Money.
missing the point of a strict skill system where you only learn by doing, since most of it can be ignored entirely by being rich. And thankfully, getting rich is a ton of fun, and is the
You can
entire point of
steal
the
and
game,
sell
at least as far as how I play.
stored
It doesn't
objects.
matter what kind of grandiose plans I make for myself, or what kind of totally new character I
Just
generate.
pick everything up
I
and sell it.
always
That's
end
what
up
I used
becoming
to
a
do.
sneaky, murderous kleptomaniac.
Yeah,
It's just, dude, there's so much shiny stuff just
yeah.
lying around. Who can resist? And if your character is good at talking to people on top of that, then a bit of flattery and bribery is par for the course when
I just
fencing
used to
your
bribe
stolen
everyone.
loot. This stuff is seriously like 90% of why I still go back to Morrowind, because the gameplay loop of sneaking, stealing, and bartering is just hugely entertaining. About the only thing bringing it down is the experience of bashing your head against the UI, trying to actually sell stuff and keep track of what you have.
Yeah, it's
This
a
brings me
bitch.
to my next big gripe with Morrowind, the user interface. Just all of it.
It's
You've got
clunky.
these windows you can drag around and
yes.
resize, which is fine.
But it's so
But the actual
clunky.
information contained within leaves a lot to be desired. Not only is there a lack of really detailed sorting abilities, but the same vague icons are often repeated for items with completely different attributes, and the way they're laid out here seems scatterbrained and an inefficient use of on-screen real estate. Same goes for your quest tracking journal, which was improved through the Tribunal expansion to allow filtering by active quests. But even then, it's still only what I would call a tolerable experience. These chronologically sorted pages make it a bit easy to get flustered trying to find an obscure piece of information that you received forever ago, making me wish for a search function or maybe even a way to add your own notes in-game. But by far the bigger pain when it comes to managing text is the speech and conversation system,
Oh, yeah,
which
I
is
just
about
used
as
to
pleasant
skip
as a
over it
wet
and
fart
just...
in an elevator. To
It's
be
just a
clear, I'm
mash
referring
of
to the
clicking out and
interactive
everything.
dialogue, not the short barks and phrases NPCs speak when you move close by.
Khajiit has no words for you.
In a step back from Redguard, Morrowind does not feature fully voiced dialogue, which makes sense seeing as this game
It's
is orders
alright.
of magnitude larger. But when combined with the awful text windows you have to navigate, conversations end up being more overwhelming and annoying to navigate than ever. There's tens of thousands of lines in-game, and I swear it seems like a single NPC can contain
Yeah.
half of them at once. In theory, I have no problem with copious dialogue, but when it's a chore to deal with, I just tune out. And that's unfortunate because there is a slew of captivating lore in Morrowind, but hell if I'm going to waste my time sludging through it with this
I
blank
know, it
wall
takes
of hyperlinks.
forever.
Compare this to the conversation system in Fallout as an example,
Fallout, I was
where you
thinking
have
that.
similar amounts of dialogue, yet
It's
because of
Bethesda,
the
of
way it's
course.
divided up and presented, it's friendlier to interact with
Short,
and feels
sweet,
much
and
more
quick.
conversational. But enough complaining for now. Once you come to terms with Morrowind's strangeness, its sheer awesomeness shines through, and it is something special indeed. Whether you're going through the main storyline or creating your own destiny being sidetracked by wayward women, it seems like there's always something new and enjoyable to experiment with. A lot of this comes from the various guilds and organized groups you can pledge allegiance to. Got trouble dealing with pent-up rage? Join the Fighters Guild. Have a penchant for magic and trapping souls? Join the Mages Guild. Can't keep your hands off of anything ever?
I just-
Join the Thieves Guild.
Yeah,
if you
the
can
Thieves
find them.
Guild, I chose
Tired of
that.
having BDSM dudes beating you up while you're trying to sleep? Track
I
down the
hated
Dark
that fucking
Brotherhood
guy
and
when
be
he
sure
tried to
bring your own
assassinate you
whip.
when you went to sleep.
And who can forget the various great houses, religions, and cults that you can join and take advantage of? Each one of these groups and guilds comes with their own set of rules, duties, advancement opportunities, spells, potions, and skills to learn. And personally, I find completing these quest lines to be far more intoxicating than the main story. That's not to say that the main story is boring or anything, far
No, there's
from
nothing
it.
wrong with
I
it,
won't spoil it here, but
it's
let me
just to
just
have a
say that
side
once you find
quest.
out what the disembodied voice was droning on about in the beginning of the game, the journey you'll take to fulfill your destiny is quite the fantastical thing indeed. But, you know, good luck keeping focused when there are spells to mix, valuable items to enchant,
Yeah, there's
Dwemer
so much
artifacts to
going on,
collect,
you
and
can't
frozen
focus.
barrows to raid. You can even turn invisible, spawn monsters, walk on water, and fly away using levitation. It's just absurd the amount of stuff you can do and the
Yeah, it's
combinations of
pretty
cool things you can
amazing.
come up with magic and skills and all the items. I love this stuff, man. This kind of open-ended, player-driven gameplay is happily reminiscent of classic tabletop role-playing games, while remaining approachable and just challenging enough to keep you engaged for hours on end. Later Elder Scrolls games tend to be a bit simpler in this regard, and while clearly some aspects of
Doesn't make it
Morrowind
bad,
needed
but
streamlining, it can be argued that they went too far in some ways later on, and then Morrowind is the last of its kind. And if you want to
yeah.
play it today and have a PC that isn't made of turds, it's incredibly straightforward and easy to do so.
It's easy to
Unlike
run.
several of the older Elder Scrolls, Morrowind has never really been far from reach, and is still playable on modern operating systems, and is currently for sale on digital distribution platforms like GOG and Steam. There was also the Elder Scrolls Anthology released in 2013 that contained a
Damn.
physical copy of the Game of the Year edition, alongside all the other mainline Elder Scrolls to that point, so it's a decent little jumpstart to your collection if you don't want the individual boxes. And finally, I have to mention the modding scene, which has always been a key part of the
Yes,
Morrowind
the
experience
mods.
due to Bethesda bundling it with the construction set. This is a
Yes.
comprehensive bunch of editing tools and is the same SDK Bethesda used to create the game itself, so it allows you to do pretty much anything you can think of.
Yeah,
And the
it
modding
really was
scene is still
incredible.
thriving through
Yeah.
sites like Nexus
Mods
Mods,
really do
complete
enhance
open
this
source
game.
engine revamps like OpenMW, and large-scale content compilations like Morrowind Overhaul. There are fan-made mods, patches, and tweaks to address
course.
practically every shortcoming I
The
mentioned
fans have got
throughout
to
this
do
review,
Bethesda's
so if
work
you
for
look in the right places and spend a certain amount of time, you can basically forget everything negative I said and make Morrowind the most perfect game in the history of time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same
maybe
with
that's a
Fallout
bit
3,
much. It's
you
still
know.
got some issues, but my point
Add
is
some
that
mods
this
and it's
game's player-guided agenda just
brand
doesn't
spanking
stop
new.
and continues well beyond what comes in the package. Quite simply, if you haven't played Morrowind yet, I implore you to give it a shot. I feel like
Yeah.
I've barely scratched the surface of things to see and do and experience, to the degree that there's a good chance that your favorite thing in the game might be something I didn't even mention. Morrowind is just a big, beefy, beautiful role-playing experience, and I fully expect us to still be talking about it in another 15 years.
Yeah,
It is by
it
no
is.
means perfect, but it's still what I would
It
call a
is a
masterpiece
stand-up
in its
game.
own admittedly flawed way.
It should be online, can you imagine that? Jesus. Yeah, that's the end of the video.
And yes, in case you're
Okay.
wondering, I am quite curious about the Morrowind expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online. I don't know if there's going to be a video, but there are other Elder Scrolls videos that I've done already and more to come in the future, so stay tuned, and thank you for watching.
Okay, now that's the end of the video. Yeah, that was LJR Elder Scrolls Morrowind PC game review. I agree, the game is a little bit clunky here and there. The fight mechanics are a little bit, horrible, because when you're hitting the guards with your sword, it doesn't really hit properly. It's like a gambling mechanic, so to speak. There's like roll the dice, hopefully you can hit him. The hit detection is a little bit off, but like I said, this is an old game, guys. I mean, come on, what can you expect? I mean, it's 2019. This is an old game, but for the time, it was a masterpiece. It was the game of the year, so to speak. It was truly an experience. But it is 2009, and we have been spoiled by lots of more improvements. But like I say, just have some modifications, some mods to enhance the Elder Scrolls Morrowind game. I remember playing back in 2004, this game with lots of mods, and it really, well, if the game doesn't crash on you running all the mods. But yeah, I remember it was, it really enhanced the game. And the same can be said about Fallout 3 from Bethesda. A lot of people didn't like Fallout 3, which is quite shocking because I absolutely loved Fallout 3. I played the shit out of that game. But I think Fallout 3 is the same. You can enhance it with mods and graphics and all that. If you are having a little bit difficulty swallowing it, you might find it bland or boring. So modifications to the game can improve the gaming experience. So yeah, it's something worth checking out when you play these old games. Maybe you can't dig it, maybe you can't enjoy it, maybe just try to add some mods to the game to spice it up a bit, because these are old games and you can't expect miracles from old games. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give a like, comment down below, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.